Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar this afternoon. The webinar is titled Setting Yourself Up for Success, and it's Essential Business Management Systems for Craft and Design Businesses. So I'd like to welcome you all here this afternoon. We're just going to wait for a minute or two for people to log in and to join us. And then I will hand you over to Florence Magee, who's running the webinar for us today. Thank you. Okay, Florence, if you'd like to start there now.
Yeah, should we start?
Yes, I think so.
Great. Well,
Great.
Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today on this very hot day. So congratulations for taking time to think about your business today. And I'm very, very excited, very happy to be talking about business systems today and focusing on very small craft and design businesses, probably working for yourself or with a small team. There you go. So my aim for this webinar is really to grand aim, but to help you run your business better, to manage it better, and really to make the most of your resources and of yourself as a business owner. This system should help you gain control and clarity and save you headache, save your time for your important work, which is creative work. We want you to be able to use your head to the best of your ability, and also to prevent, prevent opening yourself up to litigation or to complaint or to mistakes simply for, for lack of clarity or control or fuzzy processes. Okay. Before we go into the detail of it, just a little introduction to myself. So my name is Florence Magee, and I'm a creative industries trainer and mentor, and I really have a dual history, let's say, in creativity, particularly craft, and business management. I have a BA in business management and a master in business administration. In creative industries management, but I also was a hand weaver for 5 years, and I've been working in the creative industries for a good long time now. I've spent the last 10 years in working part-times in art organizations, in project management, and now I'm doing office management. So I would know a lot about systems, a lot about boring stuff like processes, but something I've adapted for your benefit today, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. As you can hear, I'm not Irish, I'm French, but I've been based in Dublin since 1998. And spent time in London in the meantime as well. Right. So my agenda for today really is to look at how the importance of business systems, and I know it's not a sexy subject, but really we're going to look at what you do every day to run your business and how you can do that better. Then we'll take a 3-step basically in setting yourself up. We'll look at your policies and your terms and conditions. Then we look at creating those systems and processes that help you run your business, not on autopilot, but with less energy. And then we'll talk about time management, because it is your most precious resource. And it's something we're all struggling with, how to manage our time better. So before we go into the nitty-gritty of specifics, I just want to talk about business systems, because it's not something we really, design intentionally when we start trading. You create your product is good enough, you go to market, you start processing sale. And then the reality of what it takes to actually, have a business and do the whole administrative part of it becomes clear, because it generally becomes a headache. I really like this quote from Tina Forsyth, and she's an online business coach and thinker, but she says one of the biggest mistakes I see entrepreneurs making is not documenting their how-tos, and we'll talk about that, and having to reinvent the wheel every time something needs to be done. And it's really the aim of this webinar, to get off that wheel and to really start building structures for yourself. Right. So why do you need business systems? As somebody who might be working on their own, so why getting so formalized about it? First, there are regulations that you need to adhere to, and you have legal requirements as a trader. We'll talk about that in the T and C's part of it, but you're entering a contract of sales with every single one of your clients. So you need to have the legal background and backup for yourself, for your business, because you are responsible in case of litigation. You also want to stand standards and expectations for yourself so that you can have quality work consistently, and for your customers, because they need to know what they can expect from you and why they can't. And there's a lot of aggro that can happen when people expect something from you and you're not able to meet them, but you haven't said it. So it's being clear of about what you expect. These systems also can protect you in case of a complaint or a mistake by giving you a guideline on how you're going to treat the matter, and a non-personal, non-affect-based system. They also reduce wasted time and focus your time on where you bring the most value to your business, which is in creating products and in making sales. And they reduce this decision fatigue. If you're running your own business, you're constantly met with decisions. Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I sell this one? What photo do I use? So it's reducing the field of what's possible so that you have guardrails to help you just manage your business on daily basis. And finally, it's really enabling your growth, if you're going to grow, beyond yourself, so that not everything exists in your head. This is what most people use for the business management, the trusted to-do list, and I like it myself, but it's not quite enough, really. And the main issues with a to-do list, which actually point with the need for other systems, is that a lot of tasks are just repetitive. They come up every day, every week, every month, and they're just, it's your energy that brings it back onto the to-do list. Then the to-do list doesn't tell you how to prioritize things. It doesn't tell you how to do them either. So the quality of how things get done is completely open. It is quite a short-term vision because you do it every day, or maybe every week or every month, but it doesn't give you that long-term view. It's not centralized. So if you lose your notebook, not great. But also it's not leveraging your experience as a business owner and as a maker. You're not building systems for yourself. You're just, redoing things without thinking too much about it. Because most of the time, it's just my own, it's not a known framework, but most of the time we have a clear line between I want to do a goal, I'm going to do an action. So I want to sell something, I'm going to, put something on social media. I want to increase sales, I'm going to maybe apply to this thing. There's not much structure. And what I propose as a framework is for your business to work on different layers so that you're not directly going from action to goal, but you're going through these layers. So first, you operate within your terms and conditions and your policies. They are the bedrock, the framework with which your business works. So there's some things that you want to be able to do because you're not set up like this, you're not that type of business, but it is clear. So you're not bending yourself backwards. Then you have your system set up. So you know what should happen for a certain goal to happen, like when somebody makes a sale or when you want to promote something. And then you have a clear idea, what are the processes, what are the step-by-step, the actions that you do consistently to achieve your goals. So that gives you a much richer framework with which to work, but also it allows you to systemize it, to make it better, and to document it. And to finish off this section, I really like this quote. I used it before, but as a creative, your headspace is your workspace. You shouldn't be spending your time trying to reinvent that wheel every time your business does what your business should do, which is selling something or promoting your business. Okay, so we're going to spend a bit of time on the slightly boring part, legal part of that framework. What do you need? Clear terms and conditions and policies, and I'll talk about the difference in a second. So first is to adhere to regulations, because if somebody buys from you, whether a trade client or individual, they are entering in the contract of sales with you. So it's regulations to have the terms and conditions present at the point where the sales happen. It's also a way to manage expectations and to say this cannot happen or this is how it happens. It's also a guideline for you to treat your clients equally, so that this is what you should give as a minimum experience for somebody who buys from you. Also protect yourself against litigation or unrealistic expectations from clients. Of course, save you time and stress. And it helps you shape the boundaries of your business so that you're able to actually leave it on the shelf, to have a weekend, to have a bit of time off, to have a holiday. So you know that it's how it works. And then finally, actually policies can be a way of realizing your ethics, your ethos, and your strategic goals as a business. And I'll have an example for that. So terminology. So as I said, when people enter in a contract of sales with you, it is the law to have the terms and conditions, so the terms of sales present. So whether it is in contract with a retailer or on your website if you're selling through your website. So I won't go in details into it because it's too specific, but you should research your terms and conditions, your terms of sale very well and have them published. And it is a contract. On the contrary, a policy is a principle of action, so it's aspirational. It's what you say your business wants to do and how it does it. To come back to your terms and conditions, you want to touch, because it is the law, on your privacy policy, your privacy notice that should be on your website, how you deal data, personal information, all these things, how you deal with exchange and refunds, the statutory rights as a consumer, all these things are very legally. Also what people can expect in terms of shipment delays, how you share the insurance, everything for when people buy from Ireland or people buy from abroad, dealing with intellectual property, force majeure responsibilities when things happen outside of your control, and then what is the territory in which the dispute, if there's a dispute, will be dealt with, and then how you go after, if somebody's credit card is cancelled, how do you go about that? Well, how do you collect payment and everything? So again, I can't go into it. It will take every minute we have, but it's what it should cover. On the contrary, the policies, as I said, is aspirational. So it's a good way to give people to guide people what they can expect from your business. So your preferred methods of contact, how long should people expect to wait until you get back to them, what platforms you don't use. If you never use Twitter, but somebody sends you a message, you should say somewhere that people should contact you by email, for example. Your opening times, especially if you work from home, how would you treat returns and complaints within, of course, the statutory framework, but also you might have a way or intentionality about where you get your supplies from. Do you use fair trade material? Do you use Irish materials? If there's something that you're trying to do through your purchasing power as a business, you might have a policy of, as I said, buying fair trade or paying fair price or for labor. I'll have an example on that. And then finally, what are your minimum orders or maximum orders, payment terms for people who work with you, methods. It's a way to guide people, and you should spend a bit of time on them, and you're not too small to have policies, really. It's an example. We're not going to go through them again. because it's too long. But this is an example of a British company called Rosa and Clara Designs, who have very clear terms and conditions. I know them because I worked with them when I was in London. And the designer, she used to be a lawyer, so her T&Cs are very clear and very joy to read. So go and have a look. And it's quite, you know, it's a good example of best practice in my book. And then finally, an example of policy as a strategic tool. So I said your policies are aspirational. They are how your business aims to run and what they aim to achieve by running. So Birdsong is an ethical fashion brand in London. They are made in London. They're probably a social enterprise. They work a lot with community groups. And their policy is to pay people the London living wage, which is like 3 times more than what textile workers mostly get in the UK. But it is their policy. So they use that as a way to calculate their impact as a business. So there is no differentiation between like a charity and a business. They use their policies to actually achieve something, and they tell their customers about it, and really is part of what you buy when you buy from them. Okay. So I hope that was a good grounding in what should be the bedrock of your business, what terms and conditions, and those policies. So now we're going to go into the systems and processes. So to set the terminology, and again, there's books written about both of these, but a system is a group of elements that work together to achieve a goal. So it's your policies, but it's also your equipment, your tools, the people, the processes. So I'm assuming you don't have a huge team. You're mostly working together. And if you have a team, you're the one telling them what to do. Equipment might not be so relevant here, but you'll be using some tools, some very old school tools like pen and paper, or some automated software. And then finally, a process or procedure is a step-by-step of action so that you know what's going to happen when. Systems and processes are not something we think about when we work on our own, especially in a studio, but actually they're very important and relevant. Your system has loads of different areas. Like if you were a corporation, you'd have a department for all of these. As a single operator or a very small business, you still have to run these wide operations, but it's not very deep. Let's say you don't have a whole team working on it, but you still have to hit those marks that you have to plan and measure. So you have your CEO head. You still have to produce the goods and create them. That's the operations. You have to sell and distribute the goods. You have to promote the business. That's your marketing department. You have to be the business head that sends and receives the money. Even if you use an accountant, it's not their responsibility. You have to have an idea of legal. That's a good thing to buy in, expertise. And then there's the whole IT department that should make sure that your emails don't crash and you don't lose all your client contacts. So it's a lot, it is a lot to do. My question for you is, how much time do you spend working on your business? Because as a designer and maker, you spent a lot of time. You went to college or you were self-taught on designing your process to make a product. You refined it, you made it your own, you made it unique. But how much time did you spend designing your systems as a business? And it is a profession. I went to college to learn it. It is something that takes time. And if you're wondering how much time should I spend on my business? Well, reading different blogs and different studies, people spend between a third and a half of their time working on the business when they run their own business in the craft industry. So, as I said, the process of creating a product and the process of designing your systems is not very dissimilar. You want to be creating in line with your ethos and your goals and what your business is really. You want to use the best adapted tools and create the most elegant form, something that you will reuse, not a castle in the sky that nobody will use. Once you've done that, you know how much time and resources it takes. So you're able to repeat the process and to know how much it's going to take in terms of budget, in terms of time. And then you refine it. You use the feedback, you use your experience to tweak the process, but not to reinvent the wheel every single time. So I have a very easy, but actually it takes a lot of time, step by step of creating a business system for yourself. First is to look at what your business does 80% of the time. Don't think about all the crazy situations. It's really the bread and butter of your business. Then we're going to work on writing down or drawing. I think drawing works really well, just step by step for each situation. Then it's time to create templates. And that's where I think often people start going by the wayside. And even more challenging is to create script for communications. And that doesn't prevent you from having personal relationships with people, makes things faster. And then deciding on a system to record your data and use it so you can get back to your data and actually make your decisions from it. Okay, so digging into that a little bit. What does your business do 80% of the time? So I have 7 proposals, and you might hit all of these, you might have some more, or some of these might not be of interest at all. So I would say that most of the time you answer inquiries on your emails, on your social media, people talk to you. Then you have orders coming in, you receive them, acknowledge them. Then you're going off to pack and send your orders. Then you have to send an invoice, or maybe it's automated through your online sales. You process the payment, make sure it's arrived, you record how much you got. Then recording your client's contact, if you've agreed to it, on your CRM and on your newsletter. You will have made sure that they want to join you. You might be contacting your retailers, checking in how things are selling. Do they want more orders? Or would they like to know about your products? And then you're doing communications through newsletters, social media about your brand. That's mostly what your business will do. Then you would select to start. I say 5, 6, it could be 3, could be 4, could be all of them, the most crucial situation, and just do a step-by-step, a list. Like, it's not rocket science. You know that somebody is going to place an order, you're going to send an email, or maybe it's automated, but you will have written that script. You will need to pack and send within 48 hours because it's in your policies. And you have your packing list for what you need to send with it. And you follow up all the way to, making sure that your client stays in the fold. And how you make that process as quickly as possible can really bring a lot of benefit to the business because you're being intentional with it. And most importantly, you don't have to think about it every single time. So you could have a little folder with your process for everything. If you have an intern coming in or somebody who's going to help you, they can just refer to that. And then working on your templates. I think it can be such a transformative tool, templates, because you're using all your experience and you're sharing it with your clients, or you're using it as a tool. So you're going to pull in frequently asked questions, what happens if my order doesn't come, whatever. What happens if I don't like the color? You just work on your frequently asked questions, make sure they're available on your website, maybe have a separate one for trade clients, and have a PDF version that you can email, okay? Then you want invoices, an invoice template. I'm listing what needs to be on your invoice because I have to process a lot of invoice through my office management job, and a lot of people leave out important details. So just make sure your invoice has all of these. Then you want templates for your sales order forms or your price list, something you can email easily to your retailers, if you have retailers. You want to create an email for your template for your newsletter, so you don't have to reinvent a newsletter every time. And yes, a newsletter is important and you should be sending one. And also have a list, have an idea of what will be in the newsletter. So main information, look back to one of your bestsellers and upcoming show. something like that, but something that's always the same, and then you can rely on too, so you don't have to have this white page fear every time you start. And maybe you have calculators, Excel spreadsheets of calculating how you calculate your price, or also using Excel spreadsheets for invoice, registering invoice. I'm not very technophile, I still use Excels and Word for most things. And then, so writing down script. Writing down script for emails to clients and retailers. You can amend them, but having the script written that's not sitting in your inbox, but is a separate document that you can access and just work on once a year. It will make you save time. It will really just protect your communications from email failure. It will enable somebody else to do it as well, and just enable you to refine it. Scripting for telephone calls is a thing, and a thing that works very well, particularly if you're doing a sales call to retailers, something you can research, like how do you create a gentle script so that you don't leave anything out, and doesn't need to be like a sales script of the people who call you and it's just really boring, but a guideline for yourself so that you don't have to be so concentrated on everything. And then, as I said, a script for newsletter and social media so that you know which hashtags you're going to use, and more or less what the flavor of what you're going to say, so that it's not always in your head. And then finally, how you record your systems. Maybe you're using technological tools already and everything's automated, integrated, and it's brilliant. Maybe you're writing everything down on Excel, but you'll want to have systems for your raw materials, how much you paid for them, the quantities left, your inventory, invoices coming in and out, when are they paid, what's outstanding, your purchases, of course, because you're going to use that to do your tax return, your client contacts, can you use their email address in your newsletter, when do you get rid of this data, did they give you permissions, as I said. But there's a few systems you should have so that you can actually, at the end of the year, look at what you did, how things went, and how you can decide on your goals for next year. And what data you decide to record really depends on your goals for yourself. So it might be how many Instagram followers you have every month. I don't know. Okay, very simple systems, and then we're going to move on. It's just like the simplest I could think about, but for example, answering queries. You could publish as I said, your FAQs on the website, have them in a PDF, and then have just a simple template for inquiries that you just fire off when people email you. Okay, doesn't mean you're not going to change the name at the start and have a little touch, but your little touch would be one sentence, not the whole email. Again, for sales, you want to have your acknowledgement emails already written, making sure that you give all the information for delivery and what to expect and everything, making sure you direct people, the call to action to your newsletter, your social media, and then you give them what they need in terms of receipts and everything. When you pack and send the product, packing your packing list, what's included, and then scheduling time. We're going to talk about time now at the post office. Okay, for invoices, look at your invoice template. Is it up to scratch? Is it good? And then how do you record your financial transactions? Do you use a software? Do you use Excel? It's up to you, as long as you use the system consistently. CRM, so client relationship management, which could be an Excel spreadsheet, really, but not a notebook, because it takes so much time to go back to it if there's other things in the notebook. And then, I talked about the rest already. Okay, a little mention of automation, because we live in a world where there's a lot of these business tasks are done through automated software, and they're brilliant. But just remember that a tool is not a system. These tools are designed for people to use, and generally larger companies, and they have to meet your needs. your needs in terms of frequency. So some of them are too expensive if you use them only a tiny bit. Some of them are perfect and people do greatly on Shopify, for example. Some add another layer. It's really, what are you going to use yourself? And it might be a case of trial and error, but just quickly name them. So you have Shopify, so online sales. QuickBook and Xero are accounts management. ClickUp, Asana, they are kind of project management, and for ClickUp, the customer emails and relationship management. Zapier is a handy one because it brings all your apps together and shares the customer data. ConvertKit, Global One Sender, again, it's to send your communications, your newsletter, everything, your acknowledgements when somebody buys. And then later on Hootsuite, they're about scheduling social media, which is something I really recommend. Okay, so we're going to finish off with time management. And time management is one of these subjects that I think there's been, training and books about time management for a long time now, and it's still one of the issues that it's such a personal thing, and it's not easy. So my own take on it is that I gave you inspirational quotes that I interpreted in time management ways. You'll see what I mean. If anything, they will be good quotes to remember for your life, and then maybe you'll get some tips on the time management side of it as well. So first quote from a wonderful man called Viktor Frankl, and it may save your life and save you many years in therapy. It says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So this is about switching from being reactive to being proactive. It's a big thing for your business and seeing yourself as an intentional business and not somebody who just receives order and processes them as fast as possible. So you want to be looking at planning your year and your month for what you want to achieve, in all areas. Maybe it's creative time to get, put aside. Maybe it's processing time. Maybe it's spending time on your business systems. You want to plan the steps. So if you want to increase your, let's say, Instagram followers, you are going to need to do that on a regular basis. So those steps, first you're going to design your slides or whatever, and then you're going to have to send them on a regular basis. So how often does this task need to happen? You do your tax returns only once, but you'll need every month to reconcile your transactions so that you record what your business did. You want to be scheduling them either on a project management tool. Personally, I don't use them because it adds another layer of something I should check. I use my Outlook calendar, very sexy, but I put everything in the calendar and I use the repeats so that every month I have a ping saying, prepare newsletter, a week later, send newsletter. So it doesn't live in my head, it lives in the calendar, and the calendar tells me what to do. But I will have spent a morning one day to just plan out everything I need to do for the communications, for the finance, for the events, everything. So you have different calendars, your publishing calendar, your production calendar, your events calendar, all these things. And then a tip would be to dissociate when you do things and when they go out, so that you don't always firefight, so you maybe work on your suppliers policy to say that we're only going to use fair trade, whatever, and then you launch it at your next launch, product launch, 4 months later. It doesn't need to be, you're the one detected the rhythm. That's what I'm saying. Okay, next quote, and I'm sorry, I realize we're all old white males, so sorry about that, is Albert Einstein. Very known quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So this is about aligning what you do and what you want. And I found it very useful when I did a time management training. It's really aligning your actions and your goals. So really realizing how much time do you actually spend on the things that will make an impact every day. So list the actions that will have the most impact for your business in terms of what goals you want to achieve. So if you want to increase your retailers, how much time do you actually spend talking to retailers? But not everybody is going to say yes. So do you have a list of retailers that you should get in contact with? Do you have a list of retailers that you should follow on Instagram? Do you actually sit down and do these steps so that it links to the phone call, to the visit that might lead to a sale? So it's really being very intentional, but very clear-headed in what do you do and how it impacts your business. Because we can all scroll down on the social media and think that we're in the, in the industry, but really it's taking action. And then, of course, scheduling it and making a list of how you do things and whether they work or not. So how many people did you contacted? How many people replied? And what was the results. And then you start really being able to go back over it and say, well, that worked, that didn't work. Actually, people don't read my newsletter, but every time I send a post on social media, they engage. Or if I use this system, I get, tears doing my tax return. I would prefer doing it this system, but being able to go back over what you did and reflect. Another very honorable gentleman, Edgar Morin, not dead this one, on prioritizing. So he's talking about saving the planet, but I'm talking about managing your time, so apology. He says, as we continually let go of what is essential to answer what is urgent, we end up forgetting the urgency of what's essential. So what does that mean for your to-do list is really using what's called the important urgent matrix and saving the planet as well. Basically, once you have your list of tasks, make sure that you identify what is urgent, what's the firefighting, what's important. If something is non-urgent, non-important, don't give it prime time. So, people commenting and liking your stuff on Instagram, maybe don't give it 9 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it's something you can do when you're tired and like and comment and everything, but as a low energy time. If you have your high brain energy, use it for what's either important or urgent. And of course, most importantly, what's important and urgent at the same time. One note on what's important and urgent, if it happens too often, partly the same issues, you might have a systemic problem. So that the same issues keep on appearing, like a courier keeps on losing your parcels, you have a systemic issue there. So you should attend not so much to the situation at hand, but also to the system and change things because it shouldn't happen. And also making time for something that's important. We're going to talk about it now. Okay. Final one, recognizing resistance. It's attributed to Mark Twain. There's questions about it, but it says, eat a live toad in the first thing in the morning and nothing worse will happen to you for the rest of the day. It's a good one to remember when you don't want to do that phone call. It actually really works. It's basically about just going for it and knowing when you don't recognizing the resistance in yourself, just tackling it first, doing it quickly, painlessly, no point spending an hour on an email. If you can take the phone, just deal with it in the least effective for you way, because you don't want to be sending emails last thing at night or very early in the morning. These are always very worrying. And once you've done this thing that you've been dreading and did it professionally, you can reward yourself with, a bit of social media or looking at your next collection. And what I do personally is I have a clear out session. It's not necessarily on a Friday, but I spend 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, just clearing out all the stragglers, all the queries, all the stuff that are not important, but just keep on gathering dust and clogging my brain. summary. Okay, we're coming to the end of it. If you have questions, we'll have time for a little Q&A at the end. So what we learned is that systems are good. And I'm sorry I couldn't get into too much details on types of system, but I hope I could show that systems will help you run your business with less time, less energy, so that you can focus on your creative work and on really going after sales. We talked about your terms and conditions, and they create a contractual framework for your business. Your policies are not, it's not too big a word when you work on your own, and they are a way to intentionally either fulfill your ethos or guide your customers or suit your needs. You tell them how you want to work. Recognizing, we talked about what your business does 80% of the time, so having an overall view of what your business achieves and needs to do well to run professionally. We talked about documenting processes, and I went through the listing the step-by-step to creating the templates, to creating the script, so that you can have a toolkit at hand and just be able to use that in the most painless way, so that you don't spend your time on things that don't really add value, and you can go faster or somebody can do it for you. We talked about centralizing data, and I don't know if I mentioned, but trying to take things out of your inbox as much as possible into safe space on your server or on the cloud, so that you have all your business documents in one place, and you don't have to continually scroll through your inbox to get stuff. It really will help you. Centralizing data so that you get all your key metrics for yourself in one point, and you get those metrics through each activity that you have, and then you're able to reflect on it, and that's how you're going to be able to actually plan for the next year and set yourself goals. I talked about time, and I hope all these quotes will greatly improve your life, but they might also improve your time management. And I know it's something we all deal with, especially we tend to be on constantly with the tools that we have, the mobile phones and the website, but really it can lead to burnout, basically. So you need to manage it, manage yourself for the creative that you are, the business person that you are, but also for your other responsibilities at home or for the rest of your life, essentially. And then finally, the tools, there's a lot of tools available there. It's finding the one that works for you is really important, but nobody will tell you what your system is. So if you recognize your system, then you'll be able to go and find the tool that works the best for you. That's it. I think that's me. Thank you for joining us today to talk about business systems. And if you have any questions, I think we have a few minutes.
Thank you very much for that, Florence. That was excellent. There's a lot of comments in there saying it's been so helpful. Thank you so much for that. And there's just a couple of things in from, there's one here from Katie. I'm not sure if it's a question, but Katie says, I couldn't imagine the need for insurance until I had a dream in which a friend was angry with me because an earring I made damages a favorite shawl of hers.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the importance of insurance there.
Yeah. Like if somebody, like let's say a restaurant buys your product, so you're a ceramicist, and somebody pours a cup of tea and it explodes all over the client, where does the lawsuit goes? As the product supplier, you are responsible for the product. Yes. And for the damages it creates. It's terrifying, but basically product insurance exists for a reason, and it's not as expensive as you might find, as you might think so.
Okay, and then there's a question here from Mallory, who also says it has been so helpful and thanks you. Is there a good resource you'd recommend to make sure we include all the necessary T&Cs for our business? For example, should we be consulting a solicitor or looking at a similar company's T&Cs? Thank you.
I think looking around what's on the, of course, what's on the internet and what people include. I would encourage you to get in contact with the enterprise offices and see if it's something that they can advise on. And then there's also the free legal advice. I don't know if they would have free legal, it's FLAC, Free Legal Advice Center. who might, have some good guides. I couldn't find a list of everything that needs to be there in the Irish department for product traders. So doing a bit of digging is good, but there's a lot of support that are there before you need to put hand in your pocket, basically. So I would investigate those first.
Okay. And then there's just a couple of people asking, could they get a copy of the slides, Florence? So if you want to send them to me, I can circulate them around to everybody who is on the webinar.
Yeah, I can do that.
Is that okay? Yeah, as who was it here said, Nicola Gates said, thank you. I wish I had this talk 5 years ago when I was just starting out. So
it is one of the great things of this series, that it allows, for the information to be out when, you might not be taking part of a program or anything, but it is, I feel for you, because I know that often we learn these things by experience and the painful way.
yeah, no, there's just a few comments saying a really helpful session. FLAC, yeah, that's what you were talking about for the free legal advice, FLAC. And Karen says, I use Etsy at the moment and they have suggestions. I plan to use these as a basis for my own website. Yeah. So, and then Yvonne said she's just followed you on Instagram.
Very good. I see you there. And I'm not very active on Instagram, so apologies for that. But
yeah. Listen, thank you very much for that, Florence. And like I say, if you want to send me a copy of your slides, I'll circulate them. So great. Thanks everybody for attending.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the day. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.